Welcome to Downshift. My name is Matt, and this is the BMW M3 competition. And you've seen the best in the rest of this car, but today we're showing you every little thing that makes this car incredible. Let's get into it. First things first, let's cover what's new for 2024. And this is actually a 2023, which is the technical update or facelift year for the M3. It's kind of funny because the M4 gets its facelift year for this year and gets new headlights and new taillights, but the 2023 model year was the new facelift for the M3, which got new tech and new interior cabin design, which we'll talk about later. But for 2024, there's no real changes to the competition, but 2024 does add the CS trim, the lightweight, more power trim, to the M3. That's an entirely different video though. But what's under the hood is BMW's iconic S58 3-liter inline turbocharged 6. Here for competition grades, it's tuned up to 503 horsepower and 479 pound-feet of torque. And 0 to 60 is good in competition spec with all-wheel drive in just under 3.5 seconds in real-world testing. It is just stupid fast. It's really on it. It also does get, it's rated for 18 mpg, although if you drive like a civilized individual and you don't go too hard into the throttle pedal, you can get around 20 mpg, if that's what you're into, but I think something will incentivize you to maybe put your foot down. But then moving on from the engine, let's talk about the rest of the drivetrain. Now, all competitions come with the ZF 8-speed transmission. If you want the manual, you're going to have to go with the base car. And the competition can also be had in rear-wheel drive, or more commonly I've seen is xDrive. Maybe in other parts of the country where it doesn't snow as much, you'll see more rear-wheel drives, but most comps that I see here are xDrive. This G80 generation is the first M3 to get all-wheel drive. Interestingly though, under the skin, when we talk about suspension components, this is a strut front car, not a double wishbone. It's Multilink rear, of course. You do have an LSD out back, you've got adaptive shocks, and you do have the EPS rack, which feels kind of yucky. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. But you also have brake-by-wire, so you can change the braking response in more sport or not sport braking feel. And speaking of brakes, these are the carbon ceramics. It's an $8,500 option. I believe it's the only way to get these gold calipers. And I have to say, on track, these are incredible. I loved having them. They could go lap after lap without getting hot or the brake pedal going long. If you're not going to track the car, I think you could probably skip them. The steels are going to be just fine. But if you want the gold caliper, you're going to have to go for the carbon ceramic brakes. But then speaking of what's outside the brake, you do have the competition style wheels. They're 19 in the front, 20 in the back, and they're wrapped in Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires, and they are 275 width up front and 285s in the rear. And it feels like that on track. Not just the grille up front, but everywhere. But let's take a little tour. Now, first thing I want to talk about is the frozen brilliant white paint. I'm sorry that it's a little dirty. This is what happens when it rains on matte finish cars, but it just looks incredible. I do like this. It makes me think about matte PPFing my mineral white car, but it looks really cool. $3,600, my wife's take, Sadie's take. The only acceptable matte color is white based on this car. But you do have the embellished hood nostrils up front. You do have the anniversary roundels. These are a free option, I believe. And then, of course, down below, you do have the big grille, which we're not going to talk about that much because we've already talked about it a lot. You do have the laser lights, which I love and I want. They're about a $1,000 option. I wish I had them on my M340. Coming around to the side, we talked about the competition style wheels. You do have black splitter up front and then black kind of rocker panel side skirt around the side. You do have M3 competition fang. It's not functional, it's not pulling any air out from behind the tire, but it does look kind of cool. You got black finishes for your window treatments and your M-style wing mirrors because competition. You've got a carbon fiber roof, which I'll lay a B-roll clip because it's covered in pollen and rain, and this is what it looks like when it rains on this car, people. It just rained last night. Take a look from the profile though. Really love the soft lines and shadowing that you get from this matte finish paint. It looks really epic. Look how long that hood is. And then that kind of subtle dip. Let's take a look at the rear fender though, because it has super wide flared hips. And you see, they're kind of using the same rear door from the M340. So they've kind of had to abruptly finish the hip flare before it gets to the door. Look at that, nice and wide, nice and aggressive. Rear 3/4 I think is probably the best look of this car. Really attractive, especially if you're not into the grille. but you do have the kind of subtle molded lip spoiler with the cutout fang, black finishes for your badges, anniversary roundel, and then black exaggerated diffuser with the quad tips. And they sound okay, but listen to this comparison and tell me what sounds better, this or my M340 with the AWE exhaust. And we're going to start to talk about the practicality of this car, starting with the trunk. And this is kind of the M3 secret formula, right? You've got this big practical trunk. It's rated at about 13 cubic feet, but it does absolutely feel bigger. Very deep this way, very deep this way. You've got your netted bins on either side, and you can fold the rear seats from back here, and only from back here, actually. You can't fold the rear seats from in the actual cabin itself, so you got to come back here to do it. But a very big, very practical trunk, and you love to see it. Another part of the practicality is rear seat space. And we do, as you see, have Fjord Blue, which is what we had on our Daytona Blue M4 competition cabriolet in LA. I think it makes a lot more sense here with the brilliant white, frozen brilliant white exterior and the gold brake calipers. I really love the spec here. It's a $2,500 option-ish for the Fjord Blue. You do have ambient lighting here. Harman Kardon in the door, no shades, no heated rear seats, but you do have a dedicated zone and vents. You've got dual USB-Cs, no map pockets, no storage back here, but you do have some storage for stuff like water bottles here in the center, and you can drop the center pass through here, so no cup holders in your center armrest. I'll get in, again, 6'1", kind of sitting behind myself, loads and loads of knee room, very practical for 6-footers. You look at headroom, this doesn't have the sunroof. You can option a sunroof. It's not gonna go all the way back, but it's gonna come to about here-ish. And you know, plenty of space. Plenty of space. Totally practical for 6-footers. Then we'll take a look at the front seats. Again, the Fjord Blue, I think, really works with the brilliant white and the gold calipers. It looks really cool. Now these seats themselves are specific to the M3 and 4. They do have the light up little business in the headrest. Oh, look at this. Look at this. This car is so new. Oh, that's good stuff. That is good stuff. Now, I will say I like these seats over the carbon competition buckets. They're a little bit more comfy. They're heated like the competition buckets, but they also can be cooled, like 3 or 4 different levels. So I really like that. And the cooled seat works fantastically well. And then just touching on the interior design for a second, it's kind of classic corporate BMW. We've seen it for a number of years now, but last year for 2023 model years was the introduction of the iDrive 8. This was the facelift. The big change for 2023 M3s was to go to these big screens. You're going to lose a little bit of buttons and tactility that way, but it's still nice and ergonomic. It makes sense with the iDrive wheel. The screens are super responsive. I honestly don't have a single issue with iDrive 8. And I really love the spec with the Fjord Blue and the brilliant white and the carbon fiber that you get all through the cabin, across your dash, into your center console, onto your steering wheel. And you even have, of course, the M stitching, the M designation down below. You've got carbon fiber on your shift paddles. You've got your M1 and 2 buttons. I mean, there's just a lot of visual drama happening. You've got your M shifter with its own embossments and M stitching. It just looks really cool. You've got ambient light, and you can even get coral, and it just looks fantastic. And it's well built. It doesn't creak. It doesn't rattle. It's a really good interior. Now, talking about the technology stack here, we're going to start actually with the head-up display. You don't have one here, which is interesting because I went on BMW's website, and if you go for the Fjord Blue, kind of the entry or the first option in the list of Fjord Blue, you can't option the executive package, which I think is why you're missing the head-up display, and I think you're missing a heated steering wheel. But you can go for the Fjord Blue Full Merino, which appears to be what this is, and then you can option the executive package, which would get you the head-up display. I don't know, maybe a box, it doesn't matter, but just a weird quirk that I saw on the website. But here you come into your center console, and of course, as typical, there's a whole bunch of different stuff for your adaptive cruise, navigation, driving, turbo pressure, tire temperature, you know, active telemetry, G-meter, the whole thing, all the stuff that you're kind of used to seeing. And then of course, your center screen is huge, it's great. really responsive, loads of different stuff, anything that you could possibly want to see. You've got your adaptive content there. You can add different widgets and features. And of course, I really like this. Foot on the brake, shows up. Turn signal, that's there as well. Of course, you've got stuff like wireless Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. You can shift it into reverse, and we see we've got excellent 360 cameras. We've got our 3D view with the different locations that we can select. The spec is even pretty close to what we have here. And you've got your car wash view. You've got your backup assistant, which I love, as you guys know. So really, really good 360 cameras. And I will also say that the Harman Kardon speakers that you get here are quite good as well. But we are going to talk about some more M-specific stuff. Now, obviously, you get your M-style shifter here. It's leather finished, M-stitched, M-embossed, and you've got your 3 different shift ferocities with park here on the shifter itself. You've got your M-style steering wheel, and this one is the carbon fiber one, as we touched on earlier with your M1 and 2 buttons, so you can program exactly how you want them to behave with this little setup button. So setup, you've got your kind of default drive mode, and then you can configure M1 and M2. So I've kind of got M1 set to like max chill, max efficiency, just to see how much mileage that we could get. 20 mpg, that's definitely a couple mpg better than the EPA rates it. Now, I've been pretty gentle on this thing since we took it to the track, but anyway, I've got my M2 set to max attack, so Sport plus everything, transmission in Sport 3. To be honest, I'm going to shift in manual anyway, but really, really nice customization that you can get here. You've also got your M mode button, which shows you basically 3 different major things that you can do. Road, kind of just a little bit chill. Sport, a little bit more active and dynamic. It changes the gauge cluster a little bit, but still shows you your drive modes and some of your temperatures and stuff like that. But you can actually go into track, which is what we did on the track, and it's going to do a bunch of stuff. So it's going to show you your tire temperatures and pressures, which is fantastic to see. It's disabled your safety stuff, so it's not going to beep at you and ding at you if it thinks you're, close to somebody in front of you. You've got your tack, your gear, and it's going to turn off your center screen. And in some cases, you can actually set it to kill air conditioning as well. I mean, this is pretty serious stuff. We'll set it back into road. And of course, you do have your loud button for your exhaust. It's a little synthesized, but it still sounds pretty good. And if we go into our little quadrant here and go all the way up, we've got our drift analyzer. So you can actually have the car rate your drifts and keep track of your angle, your distance, how long you were drifting. I mean, this is just kind of cool, right? And then something on the entirely different side of the spectrum, your driver assist stuff. Of course, it's all kind of controlled here. You see you've got the little lines here to indicate your driver assist pro package, which is about $1,700, but you do get adaptive cruise with, distance setting. You do get active lane keep assist, and you even have auto lane change. So I do have to keep my hand on the steering wheel, otherwise it gets upset, but I don't click it all the way down. I just do a little flick, and then it will execute a lane change for me. Very good, and something that I wasn't totally expecting to have such a good safety suite from something with competition in the name. So finally, how much does it cost? Now, an M3 competition is going to start at $80,000, and as tested, this one is just about $105,000. Now, you keep in mind about 5 to 6 of that is from the Fjord Blue and the Frozen Brilliant White paint, and then of course, $8,500 of it is from your carbon ceramic. So you could save yourself a bit of money. I think about 90 to 95K, you get a really nicely spec'd out M3 competition. But I think let's talk a little bit about how it is to drive behind the wheel on the road, and then we'll get to Road America and take a look at the laps. I'm gonna go into M2, press and then confirm. Power. Like, oh my God, fast. Oh my God, fast. And we're gonna talk about that a little bit more. I'm gonna hit M1 to go back into chill mode, because that's how I've got my little M buttons set to max chill and then max attack. Now we are gonna talk about the max attack thing on track in a second, but one of the joys of the M3 historically has always been that you can drive it every day. So can you drive something that says competition on the back every day? And I think the answer is yes, because I have the watered down version of this car. I have the M340i with xDrive. It is basically this in like a nerfed package a little bit. And this is it's not really any less practical day to day. You still have a big trunk, you still have a nice back seat, you still have plenty of power and reasonable grip when you want to have a little bit of fun, but the chassis is tight and it's stiff here, but it's not crashy. It's honestly better than the ride on my M340i was before I put the non-run flats on. So an M340i xDrive with run flats has a worse ride than an M3 competition, if that makes sense. I hope I'm making sense there. The point being, the chassis is stiff. You can tell that this thing is a performance car. It feels a little bit more on its toes, but at no point is it crashy, is it harsh, is it unpleasant. This is absolutely something that you could drive every single day. Now let's go check out the lap.
Start.
All brakes. Holy shit. Oh my god, this thing is good. I feel nothing through the steering, but holy shit, brakes are amazing. Grip is great. Oh, I'm early on these turn-ins. Holy shit, this thing changes direction. No wallow and weight transfer. Oh shit! Oh my god! What a machine! Here we go. Here's a rhythm. The downhill sucks. I got my blinker on. How in the world have I done that? Carbon ceramics, I love you. Jesus Christ. Yes. Gonna do one more. That last little bit. Woo! Whew, wow, holy crap, this thing is a lot of brakes and a lot of tire.
57.39 best.
Holy shit, 57.
Yeah.
That is over a second faster than the fastest thing we've ever had around here.